Go, Renee. Go.
Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Carl.
Okay, does my air conditioner bother this communication here? Does this bother anything?
I don't hear it.
I don't either.
Okay, great. I'll leave it on then.
All right, baby.
At this time, we will call to order the regular city council meeting of July 13th, 2020. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilmember Criswell. Lisa, let the roll call show everyone is present this evening. And we will move on to the approval of the minutes from June 22nd, 2020. Councilmember Kibble, go ahead.
I have one on page 5. It's probably about 7 lines from the bottom. On the right-hand side, the statement is, he stated he understands the project wasn't a good candidate for the, and then it's spelled out R3, our 3. It should be the letter R3 and a number 3. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kibble. Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 6, Lisa, at the bottom, we have the motion for 6-6-20 motion to approve plan development site plan for Fieldstone. It's a roll call vote, and it carries over to the following page. What is missing here is that in that roll call vote, Councilmember Richards replied no. Councilmember and Mayor Pelchat didn't get a chance to vote at all, so he didn't put in a reply for that motion. Obviously, it doesn't change the outcome, just who actually participated in the vote. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
I have one also.
Okay, Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. I don't have to mention that. On page 3, in the presentation by Andy Meisner, in the end of the discussion, my whole comment about the matching funds that I had proposed to be awarded to, like, the Parks and Recs or the Drain Commission, the whole segment was left out of there, and I considered that a very important turning point, and I mentioned it to the Parks and Recs Commission last week. I wish that would be put back in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Richards. Councilmember Kibble, go ahead.
Move the minutes as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to the approval of the bills this evening. Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
I'll go ahead and move the bills.
Second.
Rose had seconded, Dan.
Oh, you know what? I had a little bit of a glitch here, so I missed that. So thank you. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All
I think it-
opposed?
Sorry,
Yep.
I think it was Lisa that seconded it.
Oh, is that right?
No big deal.
Thank you for that clarification. Motion passes. Approval of tonight's agenda. Councilmember Kibble.
I would like us to amend the agenda. If you recall last meeting, when we did the minutes, I was late to get in because of a technical difficulty. I couldn't end up signing on before the minutes had been taken care of. So I was hoping we could address another amendment to the June 8, 2020 minutes.
I'll support that.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Walton.
Okay, I'll move to approve the agenda.
And I'll support that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Tonight's consent agenda, which I don't have anything on that. So,
Yes, right. This seems as good a time as any, doesn't it?
so at this time, we will open the floor for public comment. Please remember to state your name and address, and also remember that we have a 2-minute time limit.
Where were we going to do the amendment for the June 8 minutes?
I do not know. What?
Oh, because it seems like this is a time that, I mean, we're typically tending to minutes in the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah,
If not, I mean, we could put it down later on. I just thought that now seemed to make sense.
that's fine. We can just throw it up in front of everything. That's perfectly fine, Councilmember Kittle. So we will put
It'll only
that,
take a moment anyway,
Yep.
so.
okay.
On the page 12 of the June 8th meeting, in the second line, it starts off, Chief Vogel and the fire marshal. That should actually state inspector. The line below that, it starts off, help in trying to make sure you are in compliance. That's actually 2 words. So split in and compliance. Further on, it goes on to say everything you need. It says up attending. Let's just delete that. It should say everything you need to attend to. And then 2 lines below, it starts off, he knows, then there's a he. That he needs to be deleted. It doesn't make any sense. And that was my only amendments. Thank you. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Thank you, Councilmember Kibble.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All
Thanks
opposed?
for the indulgence there.
Motion passes. Now we will go to public comment. Please remember to state your name and address and be mindful of the 2-minute time limit. We do have a second public comment at the end if more time is needed. Lisa, City Clerk Deaton, do we have anyone in line for public comment this evening?
Yes, we have 2 hands that are raised. So I will go ahead and allow first one to speak, and then we'll move on to the second one.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep. Hi, my name is Srinivas Charakuri. I live at 25704 Shoreline Drive in Novi, Michigan. Thank you for the time. I just wanted to take this moment to introduce myself. I'm a candidate running for House District 38 to represent Novi, South Lyon, Lyon Township, and Walled Lake in Lansing. A little bit about my background. Michigan born and raised, like all good Indian boys. I started out as an engineer, then found other ways to disappoint my parents. Moved on towards working in, actually, so after engineering, I was a management consultant. I actually was in city government. I was the IT director for the city of Detroit until 2009, when all my bosses went to jail. In 2010, me and my brother and I started our own hearing aid manufacturing company. And so under the MD Hearing Aid brand, based right in Southfield, Michigan. So I feel like I'm a first-time political candidate, but I feel like I bring a good mix of experience, both in the private sector and in the public sector. My biggest concern right now is that I feel like all across the state, the way we've traditionally funded our states, our local governments, our schools, county governments, et cetera, with a heavy reliance on commercial property tax is under threat. It started with the retail apocalypse. It's going to accelerate with the COVID crisis. Commercial property is not going to be worth what it once was, and we're going to have to figure out a good way to keep everything going without making the state uncompetitive. My website is www.srini.vote. I don't know if I'm allowed to give you my phone number, but if you have any questions, it's 773-368-5466. So I hope that's a decent introduction. And if you want to support me, just tell your friends to vote for the guy with the long ass name.
Thank you, Srini. Lisa, go ahead and we can advance to the second public comment if you'd like.
Yes, sir.
Hi, this is Mindy Fernandez, and I am the Legislative Director for State Representative Kathy Crawford. Just wanted to give you a quick update on what's going on in Lansing and what our focus is going to be for the rest of the year as we try to get out of this COVID nightmare. We are focusing on education and reopening schools safely and sensibly, and helping the local superintendents decide how it's best to open for their local community. So we're all about local control. The second is COVID liability, helping businesses, nonprofits, city governments understand liability and helping them be exempt or lessen their liability on that, not to take it away if they open up irresponsibly, but to help them through that and understanding what their liability is. The unemployment system is still a disaster. People are waiting 8 to 9 weeks to even to get an answer or a phone call back if they go through our office, and longer if they don't go through our office. If you are having problems with unemployment and you haven't heard back and you haven't been able to get through, please call our office in Lansing. And we will help you as much as we can, help you understand the process, and we'll turn it into the unemployment agency and try to get you an answer. It's very frustrating. It's a very frustrating time right now, and I don't think this needs to be on top of it. So we're really trying to work with people to help them understand the process in unemployment, and I just can't even tell you how frustrated our office is with it. And then the last thing is nursing homes. We're very concerned about nursing homes and how we can keep people safe in nursing homes. We're having hearings on this. We're working with them to understand the process they had for putting infected patients back into nursing homes when the suburban collection was open and available, especially down here in Southeast Michigan. And so we're trying to figure that out and what happened, mostly so that it never happens again and that we can stop it from happening now. So if there are any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, or if you just want, you can give me a call up at the office.
Thank you, Mindy. We always appreciate an update.
Thank you, Mayor.
38. City Clerk Deaton, did we have anyone else that ended up popping in line a little later for public comment this evening?
No, we have no hands raised at the moment.
All right, thank you. At this time, we will close public comment. and we'll move on to the discussion of downtown. And I'm going to kick it over to the city manager, Paul Zelnick, just for a moment, just in case he had anything before we go to Nate this evening.
No, Mr. Mayor, we can go right to Nate. Nate will
Okay.
discuss the downtown.
Great. Nate, go ahead.
All right. So yeah, the last time the council met was my first day in South Lyon. So I've had about 3 weeks to get into things, but starting off, I visited more than 40 businesses downtown, introduced myself, and then I inquired with them whether they had received the Oakland County reopening kits and also the mini grant application. So I got to as many businesses as I could, speaking to them about that. So leading into the mini grants, at the July 9th DDA board meeting, the board directed the board chair, Derek Mashburn, and I to kind of go through the applications that we had received, which was 18 total, and kind of determine how the funds were going to be dispersed. We raised a total of $8,955. And in the end, we ended up approving 16 of the applicants because one of the applicants didn't meet the specified grant requirements and the other had asked to be removed from consideration. So how we awarded the funds was as equitably as we could, and each business that applied and that was eligible is going to receive about $560 from the grant funding. On July 1st, I met with a prospective business seeking to locate in downtown to open a winery. I provided them with some information regarding the winemaker licensing requirements, some loan fact sheets, and information that they can get from the county. So I've been in contact with them since the meeting, and they're kind of looking to move forward and getting all of the different licensing and regulations sorted out. I attended multiple webinars looking at subjects like social districts, which the legislation was just signed on July 1st by the governor. Different downtown operations, and then adjusting to realities in light of COVID-19. I began some of the legwork to establish a redevelopment area. So currently what I'm doing is just trying to gather information about the amount of public and private investment in what a redevelopment area could be and how we could go about establishing that. It's just another tool for us to promote economic development. I contacted Harlan Electric, which was the electrical contractor that did the banner poles coming into town on North Lafayette. You'll notice in the Realty lawn, they have those two big concrete blocks, basically, that is holding one of the banner poles up. They should be coming in either this week or next to install some sidewalk guys, which are like big wires that kind of provide some stability to the poles so that they won't be leaning into the street. We met with it, or Carol, Brandon and I met with the task force, and we solidified the design for the shop local, dine local banners and feather flags that are going to be going up. We're working with the township and the chamber on that. The banner should be arriving this week, and the feather flags are still probably a couple of weeks out. So also met with Tim Davids, and kind of went over some general operations at the farmers market. And while I was meeting with Tim, we ran into the owner of the Draft Street building. So while we were there, we spoke with him a little bit, and he gave us a tour of the property. And I kind of asked him about what his plans were for the building, and he said he was looking to sell it. So I had heard some other things that they were looking to reopen from my talks with the businesses when I was out and about, but he confirmed to me that they wanted to sell the building. And then finally, last week, I sent another request for a proposal to SME Engineering, which is an engineering firm out of Michigan, for soil borings at 390 South Lafayette Street. I'm expecting to get a proposal returned from them, hopefully this week. If not this week, then next week. So yeah, that's the gist of everything, I guess.
It looks like Councilmember Dilg has something for Nate. Go ahead, Councilmember Dilg.
I do. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I decided to do this call outside, so I just want to make sure you can hear me. A couple things, Nate, it's great to have you. I actually was downtown talking to a few businesses. Heard some really great things already. They were really happy to have you and liked your energy. So that's really great. So thank you so much. I had a couple questions. One is, I don't know if you've talked with Carol about this at all, but we have still struggled a little bit to try to get accurate like email and other contact information. And I was just thinking is when you're out and about talking to businesses that maybe you could like have a contact sheet or something and just check in and make sure we have the proper information so that when we do need to, send out something to all the businesses that we have that.
Yep, and as I've been going around, I've been doing that because Carol gave me a list of the people that we had emails for, and so the ones that we don't, I've been getting that from them.
That is awesome. And then with the winery business person you spoke to, did they have an idea on where they wanted to be? Do they already have a building in mind?
Yeah, they were looking at 138 East Liberty. If you know where that is, it's like a kind of like a house. It used to be, I don't know what, I think it used to be an accounting firm that was there. It's right by the post office.
Oh yeah, I know where
Like
that is.
the back parking lot.
Yep, awesome. And then I just wondered if you had any thoughts on when you were in the draft street, if that building looks like it is something that, I mean, is it in a position that can be, I know you're not an inspector, but I mean, is it, they haven't been in there in a while. Like, is it, be sold?
Yeah,
Does it look like it's in a,
it looked like it was in an okay state. It could maybe be cleaned up a little bit, but it wasn't anything that was terrible. I didn't see any rodents or anything like that running around, so.
all right, that's all I wanted. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Dill. Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Nate, just a couple of things. First, I want to thank you for taking the lead and getting those concrete blocks removed from North Lafayette. It's been a long time coming. I certainly appreciate you pushing on that. Secondly, and you may have mentioned this, I may have missed it. When you were going around to the businesses, do you know how many of the businesses you saw outside of the DDA?
Yeah, I've been to 12 businesses outside of the DDA so far. I don't have the list of the ones that I visited, but I have been to a few.
Okay, that's great. And the last thing is, would it be possible to get a list of the 16 businesses that received those patronicity funds and the amount that each of them did receive?
Yes, I can do that.
That would be great. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Councilmember Kurtz.
I have a comment.
Oh, Councilmember Richards, one moment. We'll come to you after Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nate, also, many of the businesses in the downtown called me to say how nice you were. They did like your energy, and they're glad you're on board. I guess you first started out with the city manager, pairing up with him for a couple of visits. And then I guess when you came down to the McCaddy Center, they appreciated you stopping in there. I do want to know, were you able to make contact with Jeff Robinson at Third Monk Brewery?
Yeah, I was. Yep.
Okay,
I stopped by there and we probably chatted for about an hour. So
good. And that's important, that all the businesses have an opportunity to meet you and pass along their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Also, have you been in Milford at all to see their new social districts that they have in their downtown area?
I have not been in Milford, no.
You may want to take a ride up there.
Okay.
I was there on Saturday. It is phenomenal how they have transformed their downtown area.
Okay.
It's absolutely wonderful. It was packed. The streets were just humming with people. People were in and out of the stores. They do have some platform dining, very tastefully done. They just did a really, really nice job. Whether or not that's for South Lyon, I don't know, but at least it's a model that you could use if you're brainstorming for things, because I just don't think this COVID thing's going away too soon. So.
Right. Okay, thanks.
But anyway, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
Hello, Nate, I'm a councilman for a few years here and an activist for a good number of years.
Okay.
And I have yet to meet you, and I'm looking forward to doing so. I hope I can emphasize to you, since you're new to the community, historically, okay, that business of the Draft Street has had a catalytic effect on the activity of the business overall in the downtown community. When that place is out of business, it's a death warrant on a lot of other businesses. That has a definite effect on the business and activity overall in the community. So I hope you can please keep on onto that. Many people that have been here a long time can confirm that with you. I hope you get to meet them. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Richards. Councilmember Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Steve, thank you for asking for that list, because I also would like to receive that list, so maybe that could just go to all of council, please.
I just assumed that's where it would go.
I'm just making sure. The other thing is, I wanted to say thank you, Nate. I know that you met with the downtown area and the memorial committee, and I know that we got a couple more flower pots added to the memorial so that it matches the downtown. And I thank Herb Stricker for his donation, but I thank you also for working with them on that, and Paul, for the city manager, for working together and getting that done.
Thank you, Councilmember Walton. Does anyone have anything else for Nate this evening in regards to the downtown? All right, great. Thanks for that update, Nate.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, it's time for Chief's Corner, and we'll start with Fire Chief Vogel this evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Just 3 positive items tonight. I feel positive today. Chief Weir continues to heal. He will be returning to his full-time job on Wednesday. However, we're expecting late to middle August before he's able to fight fires. We do have a big, important state inspection coming, so he has been able to help me with some of the administrative stuff from home, and then I allow him to come in for an hour or 2 a day, and it's been pretty helpful. Second item is, back July 1st, I started full-time. I thank everybody for the support. But more importantly, we started to have our Friday and Saturday night shifts and our Sunday shift. They both have been, all 3 shifts have been busy taking calls. Our response times, I expect, will be very good at the end of the year. I'm pretty happy with the response that's helped the city. And finally, I learned last week that we got our final budget numbers for the 20 budget, and I'm very proud that we came under budget. I was pretty nervous, concerned that back when the COVID started that we were just going to blow the numbers away, but working with Patricia and the city manager, and more importantly, I asked my staff, I said, we really have to tighten the belt, and they did an excellent job. I didn't think there was any way in the world we could stay under budget, but we did it. And I'm really, really proud of them. That's all I got tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Vogel. Does anyone have anything for Chief this evening? All right. Thank you again, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. We'll head over to Chief Sovic and the police chief report. Chief Sovic, go ahead.
Couple of things. We have been, our use of force policy is currently being updated. It should be finalized by the end of this week. City Attorney Lisa and I have been going back and forth as far as getting the proper wording. And so we should have that implemented by the end of the week. The second thing is we have a speed radar sign. Some of you may or may not have seen that. It was on Hagedorn for quite a while during our test trial. It's easier when we can hook it up to a sign. And so we hooked up to the speed limit sign on Hagedorn, and got about 3,000 vehicles. The average speed of 85% of the vehicles is about 25 miles an hour. The high speed was 84. Excuse me. It was 34. And, that was from Lieutenant Baki and I when we were testing the machine. So some people say, yeah, we're going like 50 miles an hour down there. Well, no, they really weren't there. The fastest speed was going 34. So that's going to help us out there. Currently, it's on Martindale right now. As of last Thursday afternoon, it's gotten 7,686 southbound vehicles. So Martindale is very busy. And so we're going to keep it there for a little while. And then you're going to see it throughout the various subdivisions of the city throughout its use. So we're excited about that. We currently just relaunched our Nixle. It is an instant notification system. It's more communication with our city. Most people, some don't have Facebook, but just about everybody has a cell phone, and you can sign up for this. It is a free service from us. Just log on. You can send the text South Lyon to 88877, or you can check our Facebook page and go to the link and sign up, and you can get instant notifications. So if you got a cell phone, that's going to be something good to have. We actually received 30 more subscribers since we put the ad on our Facebook sometime today. So we're excited about that. Just wanted to give a shout out to the fire department, Chief Vogel. You guys are doing a great job over there. Our working relationship with the PD and the FD has never been better, and we just consider them part of our family as well. I think he and I work together very well, and I just want to give a shout out to him and his crew for doing a great job what they're doing. Lately, we've been experiencing some phone line problems. Our phone system is very old, and we've been having some issues. We're frequently dropping calls. We were hoping to slowly introduce a new system, but our situation has become a little bit more urgent. When our phone lines go down, the fire department lines go down, and sometimes they don't even know that they go down, but they're dropping calls consistently. So the current system that we have is old, and it's really becoming unacceptable when people are calling us and they're dropping calls and we can't find out where they're calling from. To us, that's an issue, so it's very important. So on the call tonight, we have our administrative assistant, Brianne. She's been doing a lot of the research and a lot of the investigative work as far as what system we're looking into and various systems. She was very instrumental in getting our new IT company squared away with us. So she's just going to explain a little bit about what this issue that we've been having, our current system, and what we're looking at. So hopefully we're going to be introducing this at an upcoming meeting sometime very soon. But Brie, you want to give them a little heads up on what's happening?
Yep. So for the most part, we've been having, just like Chief said, you know, people call into the station for a non-emergency, and I will transfer them to dispatch, or I'll be on the phone with them. And even when I transfer the call to Novi Dispatch, if our phones go out, their call drops as well. So, you know, if we have somebody that's calling for help from the park and I transfer, and I mean, we actually had it happen, unfortunately. And then unfortunately also the system goes down for quite some time. You know, most of the time it's 15, 20 minutes. Other times it's hours, and they cannot get a hold of anybody at that time. So I am currently looking at Comcast, Verizon, and then there was another one called Tioma Systems. So I've got quotes from all three of them.
And just to be clear, this is not a 911 system. That 911 is working fine. There are no issues. But we're actually looking at something that's going to be CGIS compliant, and Verizon currently is not right now, but because of the expense that we're looking at, we're trying to get 3 quotes, but they have to be CGIS compliant with our security system. So, you know, currently right now we have there's 4 arms to our current phone system. We have the Windstream lines. They're serviced by AT&T. We have Avaya hardware, but then we have CTBS software. We currently have no maintenance agreement with CTBS. Whenever they come out, it is very, very expensive. And you know, when they send me the bill for a couple $1,000s, I'm constantly have to go back and just kind of negotiate and try and get a cheaper price. But we're hoping to try and get something. Comcast Business right now is looking like the way we want to go. There's going to be some, I guess, some foundational fiber optic line that's going to have to be buried in the ground. But as far as long term, it might be a little bit more expensive, but long term, it's going to be what we're going to be looking for as far as reliability. Because I was on the phone with one of our IT company just the other day, and I dropped 2 calls within a matter of a minute. So it's just kind of getting older, and it's about time that we need to get something that's going to be reliable all the time, not just part of the time. So we're certainly looking into that for sure.
Thanks, Chief. Councilmember Gill, go ahead, and I'll come over to you next, Councilmember Kibble.
I just have a couple things. Thank you. I just wanted to mention, I had a meeting with Jeff Sapor and one of his colleagues at his counseling center. They took over the Lemon Tree, and they've been in that area for a while. And they mentioned that they had sent you an email about wanting to do some kind of a partnership with you guys and helping some of the police officers maybe to do some interventions or some crisis training or things like that. And I just wondered if you had a chance to get a hold of them, because it just sounded like a really good possibility for the partnership. You know,
I just recently found it. I was going through some of my spam emails, and there's like 118 of them that came in. So I did see him. He's on the to-do list this week. So I definitely did see that email, and I will be reaching out to him and making sure that we make contact with him.
That would be awesome. They were, it's a real really great. You know, they have a building, a business here, but they also are residents and they have kids here, and they just seem like they just really want to be involved in a positive way. So I think that,
Sure.
the other question I had is, when you were talking about the use of force policy, and you should have it implemented, and sorry if I should know this, but is it, how will we see that, or how will the public know what that is and that kind of thing?
But if somebody wants to call me and or call me or just email me, I can send them a copy of our updated policy when it gets implemented. But it's just a matter of making a decision and making sure that we have a system. When we update a policy, what we do is we make sure that everybody gets a copy, and they actually have to sign a waiver or sign a form of what policy it was, what date, that they understand it. So we have that record of it. And so, like I said, we should be having something by the end of this week. If somebody wants a copy of it, I can send you out, I can email you a copy. But all the wording is there. So if you want to know what it is, drop me a line and I'll get it to you.
Great. I just had a few people ask me what our policy was, and I
Sure.
knew you were working on it, so I'd love to see it. So thank you.
Gotcha.
And the last thing I had, sorry, is just wondering on this mask mandate. I was talking to some of the businesses, and they were saying some of them were liked it because they thought it took the pressure off of them. You know, to them say it's not me, it's, you know, the governor. But I'm just wondering what our kind of policy is on helping them enforce these kind of things. I know
Well,
it's a
yeah, I
tough
mean,
position.
as many of these executive orders are just kind of confusing. They're not really sure how they're interpreted, but thankfully, as of today, we have not received any complaints about any of the violations. But according to what I understand, I think that the business owners are actually required to tell people or refuse service or refuse them into the building if they do not have masks on. Now, I think some of the businesses have been actually giving masks to people when they come in. So it's like everything else, we're going to use our discretion. I have spoken with the city attorney about what our best practice looks like. We're not going to issue citations. We're not going to issue arrests or make arrests. We're going to get called to the scene. We're going to write a report, and we're going to forward it either to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office or the Attorney General's Office for review, and allow them to make the decision.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Certainly. Yeah.
Councilmember Kurtzwell, just one moment. I had Councilmember Kivel first, and then I'm going to come to you. Go ahead.
Actually, Lisa wanted to weigh in there.
Oh, I'm sorry. City Attorney Hamame, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to add an option for the chief in that I was just reading that the Macomb County Sheriff has issued a notification that he's not issuing citations, that he would take reports and he would send them to the Attorney General's office.
Okay.
But if a business owner was having trouble with an individual who's refusing to wear a mask and refusing to leave, the Macomb County Sheriff is treating that as a trespass complaint.
Absolutely.
So that's also an option.
I've explained that to a couple of businesses. A lot of times the business practices and the executive orders, they don't always kind of go along, but someone's business practice. And I've explained that to a couple of business owners. You ask people to leave and they don't, we'll come down there and help them leave. If they don't, then we'll help them leave.
Okay.
And arrest them for trespassing.
Great. That's what I was getting at. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Councilmember Kivel, go ahead.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because it does seem to take an awful lot of pressure off of a business owner from having to, you know, dance with somebody. So
Absolutely.
I was kind of curious, the CARES program, have you or Rob made any kind of efforts or found anything that we might be able to capitalize on from that?
Yeah. Currently right now we're working with Patricia, and we're discussing the fact that one of the issues is reimbursement for those that have received hazard pay. We have not received any hazard pay, but there's a possibility that we could apply for a grant that will reimburse us if the city chooses to give all of us first responders $1,000 check for hazard pay. Then we would apply for the grant in order to get reimbursed for that. So I know Patricia's been talking about that with the city manager, Paul, and so we're currently discussing that right now.
I'm glad to hear that. On the use of force policy, quite honestly, I would like to see it myself, just so I can be educated about if anybody were to ask. Probably anybody on council might be a good idea to just inform us. And lastly, when the power outage had taken place last week, I don't know if Rob is still on the site or not, but that generator at fire is so loud. It's like a stinking wide open diesel truck sitting outside of the fire hall. I thought we were talking about trying to consolidate PD with a fire to both be on the same generator or something.
Well, I know currently when the power goes off, the generator, I think back at the day, the previous chief had wired it to the fire department and the building that he was in. Currently, right now, what we have to do is in order to generate and get power back up the main police building, there's a generator that comes over from the water department, that diesel one that hooks up to the settings that we have outside the building and runs that. So I think in the future, that might not be a bad idea to look into something that's going to automatically switch on, just like there is one for the fire and for the police fire building.
Right. Well, I was stricken with, I mean, it sounds like a diesel it should be running off of gas. Oh, it is?
It's diesel.
Oh, well, that makes sense because I'm thinking I didn't see any tank there. So I assumed that it was gas and just didn't have a muffler. So,
Yeah,
okay.
no, it's diesel.
Well, yeah,
It's loud.
I think that's something we should probably give some consideration to though. So,
Sure. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Chief Sovic, I just wanted to let you know that I have had an opportunity to listen to a lot of the business owners in the downtown areas as a result of certain events that have occurred nationally. And I do want to let you know that the business owners clearly have expressed their tremendous support to you, to all the men and the women that are in the Southline Police Department. And they can't imagine having their business ravaged and looted and burned to the ground like other police departments have allowed to happen in other cities. So stability in our business community, which we really need to understand, is clearly part of policing. And the business community has tremendous respect for you. And I think if you don't believe it, watch what's happening in Seattle tonight and the rest of the week as Spokane, Washington is doing a hard push to move every business out of Seattle and come to Spokane where they have law and order. Seattle is going to have a very tough time. But hopefully that's not going to be our future. Our future is going to be very bright, very stable. And thank you so much for the working relationship you have with our community. We support our police. We support our police department.
It certainly is a priority. The partnership with the community. It's not just words. We actually, we've been having some people go into businesses and talk to business owners and say, hey, how's everything going? And basically just kind of asking for an evaluation. Is there anything that we can do for you that's not getting done? Or what do you think about our services? Our guys were stopping businesses and they'll stop in it's subdivision, just people doing lawn, work and saying, hey, how's it going? I'm so-and-so from the Southline Police Department. Anything we can do for you. So it's going to continue as long as I'm there and hopefully long after I'm here. So the partnership we have with the community is certainly is something that I take great pride in. And I think that our community is great. They've been very supportive of us during this time as well. So I think it's been mutually beneficial and I don't see anything changing in the near future. So I appreciate those kind words. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything for Chief Sovic this evening? All right, great update, Chief. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks, Bree.
Yes, thank you, Brianne, for being here as well. At this time, we'll move on to old business. Change order for DPW complex improvements. And I believe Doug is going to lead the charge on this one.
That is affirmative. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, outstanding. How's everybody tonight? All right, so Stant Excavating was awarded the contract for the improvements being made currently at the DPW complex. It has been decided to complete the site work over 2 budget years. Stant has worked on this project and some changes had to be made that were unforeseen due to Oakland County Drain Commission permit not being issued prior to the bid being advertised. This change order also addresses additional planned budgeted improvements for the DPW site. The following is a breakdown of those requested changes that are being made in this change order. There are 5 things. I kind of listed it as best I could here. Up to and included these 5 items here, which would be the revised floor drain connection to the sanitary sewer. Item 2 being the detention pond for the 4-bay, revised grading, which also included them putting in a filter or SO2. Concrete pads. This is being done with future plans for the DPW storage and future fuel tanks. As you can see, it's all itemized out here. The concrete collars, we increased the sizes of those to 10 square feet instead of 5. And the existing berm removal, there was a giant berm there. Our guys moved a lot of it, but we're not able to get all of it. And so Stant was able to try to knock that out for us. Basically, they have way bigger trucks. So those are the items. Mike is here as well. Mike Darga, Mr. Darga is from HRC, so he can help answer any questions as well.
Thanks for being here, Mike. Councilmember Kennedy, did you have something?
Yeah, just go ahead. I want to go ahead and just make the motion to approve the change request for the detention basin and storm sewer improvements project at the DPW complex in the amount of $80,393 from the Capital Improvement Fund, account number 101-451-802-500.
Go ahead. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
I have a question.
Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Darga or Doug, going through this, the biggest item I see is the catch basin, the main basin, and I've looked at it. It's tremendous, okay? But reading through this, am I to understand from what I'm reading that this is going to be downsized a little bit so that they can put a larger border around it? Is that what I'm reading in this? And I also wondered what the lining was going to be on that.
I can answer that. The pond is sized right now for the future improvements. If the city paves it in the future, the whole parking area, it's already sized, so no additional work will be needed. So no, the detention pond's not going to be smaller. What you see out there is as big as it's going to be. And then it is going to be seeded, is going to be the treatment to it. So it'll be lawn, grass.
Well, what's the lining going to be on the inside of the banking?
Well, they'll seed it with seed and mulch, and then grass will grow.
Okay, so you're not putting a vinyl liner on a certain level like they do in Lyon Township?
No, it's we're hoping to get some infiltration if possible. Anything else will be restricted out through the outlet pipe.
Okay, all right, just so we know, on the same page, okay.
Anyone else with any discussion points? All right. We have a motion by Councilmember Kennedy, supported by Councilmember Walton, to approve the change order request for the detention basin and storm sewer improvements project at the DPW complex in the amount of $80,393 from the Capital Improvement Fund, account number 101-451-802-500. City Clerk Deaton, would you please lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Kibble?
Yes.
Kurzweil?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Walton?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Dilg?
Yes.
And Pelchat?
Yes. Motion passes. With that, we'll move on to new business number 1, charter amendments. And I believe City Attorney Hamame is going to lead us on this one.
Happy to.
Thank you.
So, we've been talking about the charter amendment since I started working for South Lyon, and Paul and Clerk Deaton and I have been discussing what changes need to be made. What we haven't done is come to you and talk about the process and the time frame. And so we felt this was a good time because this is really our last chance, and it's going to be very, very tight to try to get something on the November ballot. And so we wanted to talk you through our process and what we're thinking on these. I wrote a letter that lays out the process. As you can see, it's pretty elaborate even for an amendment. And so just in a nutshell, what happens is we have to draft the language, and drafting the language is probably the hardest part because it has to be real succinct. It can only be 100 words. You have to have separate and distinct issues in each paragraph. Then once the ballot language is drafted, then the city council approves that language to go to the Assistant Attorney General's office for an informal review. They will offer suggestions. It's very helpful. I don't know if you're familiar with George Elworth, but I had a pretty lengthy conversation with him earlier in the week. Last week. And he is very helpful and very knowledgeable. He's been doing this for many, many years. What he then does is he responds to us and says, hey, it would be better if you did this, or this would be great. Or just, obviously approves them informally. Then we have to submit it to the governor's office. She'll then send it to the attorney general's office to give a formal approval. We'll get a letter both from the governor and from the attorney general's office approving the language or asking for changes. The statute, the only deadline in the statute is 60 days from when city council approves a language to the election. So you have to have at least 60 days so that the public can absorb what the recommendation is. Our problem is our timeline is a little tighter than that because Oakland County is requiring any ballot language by August 11th. So it's going to be very tight. I did talk to Mr. Alworth, and we talked about if we had very simple amendments and kept it very succinct, then there's the possibility what we could do is, Paul, Clerk Deaton, and I could draft the language. We could send it informally to Mr. Alworth, and then have it on your agenda for your next meeting, which will then eliminate that step. But your next meeting is the 27th. And depending on how long the governor's office and the AG's office takes to review it, we might miss that deadline with the county, or it'll be close. Alternatively, you should know that you could proceed regardless of whether the governor or the attorney general's office approves it. Obviously, that's not recommended. So why am I giving you all this doom and gloom? Well, I wanted you to understand that although we've been talking about these charter amendments for a long time, none of them are fatal. And so here's what I've come up with. I've gone through the charter. I've gone through the mandatory provisions of the Home Rule Cities Act. There's really only 5 things that need to be cleaned up, but all of them can be considered housekeeping items. None of them are critical items that need to be addressed immediately. And I've listed them in the letter. I'm happy to go through them, but I think what everyone's interested in is this quorum requirement, because we've talked about that at length and we've talked about the concerns we have with that. So I just want to take you back to 1970 when the charter was drafted. Back when it was originally drafted, there were 2 provisions that address the quorum requirement. One was found in Chapter 4 that dealt specifically with the council, Section 4.5. It specifically said that 3 members of council shall be a quorum for the transaction of business at all meetings. Later on in Chapter 13, where it has the general provisions, it says a quorum of the council or any board or commission created by or under authority of the charter shall constitute a majority of the number of its members as established by this charter. So in 1970, when there were 5 council members, 3 was a quorum, and Section 4.5 and Section 13.4 matched. There was no conflict. So why do we have a conflict now? In 2004, City Council amended its charter to increase the number of council members from 5 to 7. What it didn't do was change the provision that specifically called out a number, which was 3. That's when we encountered a conflict. So here's why I'm not so concerned about it. And I wanted to explain it to you because I want you to make the decision. In the section that in chapter 13, that's the general provisions. I read you half of that provision. The rest of that, the next sentence in that provision reads, a concurring vote of a majority of such established number of members of each such council, board, or commission shall be necessary for official action by it. So what that says to me is that you need 4 members, right, a majority of your current board, for any official action. So if you need 4 members to take any action, and you only have 3 members, and somebody wants to consider it a quorum, you wouldn't be able to transact any business. You wouldn't be able to take any official action. So what would be the point of moving forward? And so if I were sitting in a meeting and there were 3 members only that were there and you wanted to transact business, I would advise you, I would just adjourn, because you don't have the 4 members required to take official action for council. And that would be that. Yes. Should it be cleaned up? Absolutely. It's been like this since 2004. And as I've indicated, I think it's an argument that will lose because of the necessary for any action by council. Now, I know in discussions about needing changes to the charter, I know that Council Member Kurtzwell has indicated concerns about the conflict of interest provision. And I know Council Member Kennedy has expressed some concern about if there was a tie in the nomination process or the appointment process, how it would be handled. Neither of those have been addressed in the charter. And so that's something we could add to these 5 and have 7 issues that we amend the charter down the line. I also wanted to point out one other thing with regard to these changes. So the other 4 changes that I indicate, or the 3 of the other 4 changes that I indicated to you in my correspondence, really is bringing our charter consistent with state law. And that's great, we need to do that. But in the end, state law says if there's a conflict between the charter and state law controls. So they've already fixed those deficiencies or those inconsistencies, which is a better word, for us. I'm not concerned about that. Should we clean it up? Yes. Is it urgent? I don't believe so. And then there's also one other thing I'd like changed, and you're probably wondering why I want this changed, but a statement that the city shall constitute 1 election district. So that is a requirement. It's a mandatory provision of the charters that the city designate its wards. It's probably not in the charter because we don't have wards and we're 1 district. But if you take a look at a whole bunch of other charters, everybody calls themselves 1 district just to appease or satisfy that 1 requirement in the mandatory provisions. I spoke to George Elworth and he says that that's not fatal. Everyone understands that's the city charter. I mean, he can't give us legal advice, but since he's been doing this for so long, he was offering just some feedback. Couple that with the fact that that was language that was omitted from the original 1970 charter. So all of that to say, if you want to make the quorum change, we can, and the other changes, as long as we limit it to 1 or 2 of the issues you want addressed, we can do what we can to rush it through and get it on the November ballot. Or we can wait until the next election cycle, deal with the 5 that I'm requesting be changed and the 2 that had already been considered. Happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Kibble, go ahead.
In the event that there's a change by the governor's office or the AG, does it have to come back to city council for us to buy into what their change is?
So that's a good question, and I should have pointed this out. So when I spoke to Mr. Alworth at the Assistant Attorney General's office, he indicated to me that frequently counties will allow you to amend or withdraw language once submitted. But I've asked Clerk Deaton to reach out to the Oakland County representative, and they will not. August 11th is the drop dead date for language. So that's why time is critical, and we may be rushing to get it on and not hear back from the governor or the AG's office regarding the language, and you may then have to make the call. Do we submit it anyway, or do we hold off?
When you spoke to the idea that state law supersedes ours, that kind of took the real onus out of this as far as I was concerned. I'd like us to clean up our language, but it's not fatal to, or as your Ellsworth guy said, so. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
So if we didn't get this cleaned up and put on the ballot for the election this November, we could add it to the ballot for next November, correct?
Yes, any general or special election.
So we have an election scheduled 1 year from now, year and a half. So I mean, it isn't like we got to wait another 2 years to get it on the ballot.
I don't have any qualms about us going forward with it, but it doesn't seem like an urgency.
No, I completely agree, Councilmember Kill. I just, I don't know if it's something we need to try and push through in the 11th hour, not that it's of urgency. And so really, I would go with what our city attorney and city manager and city clerk think, that, if it's something we could get done and it's worth taking a shot at, let's go for it. But if not, I mean, it's better off maybe having these man hours spent elsewhere. And we address this when we have a little more time, maybe next calendar year. That's just my opinion. Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Well, and we may find, some other things. I don't know what Attorney Hamame's also found. There may be a couple other little housekeeping things that we need to address as well. I'd be fine with waiting till included on next year's election, rather than try to push the thing through and find out we're stumbling over ourselves because we didn't get the approvals in time and the rest of it.
City Attorney Hamame, go ahead.
Thank you. If I could just offer a suggestion, I've only heard from 2 council members and it sounds like maybe you're leaning towards waiting. What I don't want to do is just wait indefinitely. What I'd like today is authorization for the city manager, the city clerk, and I to draft the language that we feel is needed for these housekeeping items, and direction as to whether you want us to work in some conflict of interest language and the election language that we've discussed, and then come back with you with those 5 or 7 items in the next month or so, just so that we're not back here, in July of next year scrambling again.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Well, then I'll go ahead and I'd like to make the motion to direct the city attorney to draft ballot language to address the charter amendments, including the conflict of interest, including addressing tie votes in an election, in preparation for adding the amendments to the election targeted for November of 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
I think what I would do is address the quorum this time. I've worked on ballot language in prior years. And when you put a lot of items on the ballot, it's tough for the voters. It really is. It's easier if you can just sort of, I don't want to say drip, 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 but this would be a good opportunity to just slowly take these amendments, give the voters an opportunity to understand why the change, focus in on 1 or 2 changes. I think what I would do is go ahead and do the clarification regarding the quorum, get your feet wet on doing that. That seems to be a pretty simple thing. Don't believe there's gonna be any problem there. And then work on the other 4 or whatever, put maybe 2 on the ballot next year and then 2 the following year. I mean, really, the voters do not like a lot of this stuff. I'm telling you right now. So if you want it to pass, because that's the goal is to get it to pass. I think you need to be succinct and don't be overwhelming with all the changes. So that personally, that's what I would do. But I'll go with the majority.
Thank you, Councilmember Kurtzwell. Councilmember Dill. go
I
ahead.
have something to say.
Oh, Councilmember Richards, just a moment. Councilmember Dill, did you have something? You're muted.
I'm on mute, sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
I absolutely agree with Councilmember Kurtzwell. That's what I was gonna say, is that I think that we should do at least one, and I think the quorum one is easy enough for everyone to understand, and a really huge ballot this is gonna be this election.
Yeah.
So I would absolutely agree with that.
Thank you, Councilmember Dill. Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
I just want to make note of the fact for Lisa, attorney, that historically we have an extremely low turnout at an election like this in a primary situation, even in the November situation. Now, we'll get more in the November situation for sure, but I think the public is slow to grasp it. If we got to go through an education process, plus as Councilman Kennedy indicated, there's a number of local issues that for years should come before the public, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Richards. Councilmember Walton, go ahead. You are on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say that I agree. Maybe we should split this up and put some on this year and some on next year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to modify the motion I made to direct the city attorney to draft ballot language to address the charter amendments that, including the resolution of a tie vote for filling a vacancy and the conflict of interest, with the exception of the quorum question, targeting that ballot language for the election of November 2021. And then I guess we can make a motion to direct the city attorney to draft ballot language to address the charter amendment dealing with the quorum issue for this election. Is that how you want to handle it? Attorney Amame?
City Attorney Amame, go ahead.
I didn't have my hand up. I just wanted to, but now that I'm already talking and interrupting, I just wanted to make clear, we may not still make it on for this election. I just want you to understand, we're going to do our best to prepare the language and send it on, but there's a chance that we will not hear back from the governor and the AG before the August 11th date.
Okay, and then, so the fallback would be, we'd go for the November 2021. Okay, so I'm going to stay with the original motion that I had to direct the city attorney to draft ballot language to address the identified charter amendments, including filling a vacancy in the event of a tie and the conflict of interest, with the exception of the quorum charter amendment, and guide those towards having those ready for the ballot for the election of November 2021. So I'm looking for a second on that.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Richards. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? City Clerk Deaton, would you please lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Dill,
Yes.
Richards,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Kurtzwell,
No.
Kibble,
Yeah,
thank you.
how about Dan?
Yep, City Clerk, you forgot me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll chat.
Yes,
Sorry about that.
it's okay.
He gets to play too.
Motion passes. I see Councilmember Kennedy wants the floor. Go ahead.
So I'm going to follow that now with a motion to direct the city attorney to draft ballot language to address the charter amendment regarding clarification regarding the quorum requirement in an effort to get it on the ballot for the November 2020 election.
I'll support.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? City Clerk Deaton, please lead us in a roll call vote.
Walton,
Yes.
Richards,
Yes.
Gill,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Kurzweil,
Yes, but I just want to make sure that Councilman Kennedy said 2020.
For the charter amendment,
Yes, he did.
for the quorum issue, I said November of 2020.
Okay, all right, then I'll vote for it.
Kibble,
Yes.
Felchat.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes. We'll move on to new business number 2 this evening. Final fiscal year ending 6/30/2020 budget amendments. And I'm going to kick it over to Patricia. Go ahead, Patricia.
Sorry, I was getting my microphone ready.
It's okay.
I wanted to bring forth to council members tonight one final budget amendment. And I apologize that we had to do one after the close of the fiscal year. But after we have a few weeks of movement in the budget, bills come in, the final payroll, things like that, we finally get a good look at how the numbers are going to end for the fiscal year. With that being said, I did need to do some movement within departments, 2 departments within the general fund and 2 departments within the water and sewer fund. In order to do the movement within the 2 budgets, or within the 2 funds, basically, if you look at the explanation that I gave you, the police budget was well under budget for their salary and wages line item, $67,000. Actually, they were a little bit more than that, due to lack of overtime over the course of the spring because of changes, in how staffing was done during COVID-19 in the height of the pandemic. That being said, our Department of Public Works was over on their wages and salary line by $67,000 due to, again, staffing changes where hours were being spent during that same time frame. So I am requesting movement of $67,000 from the police 702 wages and salary line and putting that into the Department of Public Works department budget, their 702 wages line. The total appropriation for general fund will not change. It's just moving dollars from one department budget to another. The same would be done with the water and sewer fund. Water repair, their budget, a couple different areas in their budget this year ended up being higher. Obviously, when we do the budget, we're estimating where we think things are gonna go throughout the year, but especially with water and sewer repair, those things sometimes we just can't budget for. Hours that are needed to be spent when surprises come up within the city. And that being said, again, hours for salary and wages, also a little bit of other funding for the repair maintenance line within the water repair budget needed to be increased. We had additional funds available in the sewer repair budget because there was lack of hours that were needed within that. So what I am requesting, again, if you look at the explanation, and I apologize that there's so much detail there, but we needed to move $15,000 from the sewer repair budget and put that into the water repair. Then also requesting an additional $12,851.90 from the fringe benefit line item, which would be from sewer repair 592, 550, 715 line item, and put that also into the water repair salary and wages line. So that's 592, 540, 702. Then for the repair maintenance line, we would take $2,580.93, and we would move that into the water repair maintenance line item, which is 592, 540, 930. So again, total appropriations for the water and sewer fund would not change. It would just be moving the funds within the 2 departments. Is there any questions about that?
Councilmember Kurtzwell and Councilmember Kibble, I'll come to you next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Patricia, very good job. Just wanted to let you know, I personally like the detail. And I do keep my eye on overtime, so it's kind of important for me to, take a look at some of those items. Whenever I see these amendments that come through, I always sit back and I ask myself, it's obvious, why is it being amended? So is it being amended because we had some unusual, let me go back a little bit. The reason I'm asking this question is because sometimes it helps in the budgeting process is that if you look at your amendments and say, okay, why did this happen? Did it happen because I underestimated something in wages in the budget that I should have been able to pick up on? So how do you use this information here to become, to improve the process, which was very good this year, to improve the process of budgeting? Did we have some on water repair and sewer repair? Were those things that could have been anticipated that maybe we just did not get into the budget? Or were these truly issues that popped up that were unforeseeable and nobody could have seen it? So I'm just sort of asking it just for general budgeting questions, because if there is an ability to go back and assess why these amendments are being done, then you look at the budget that we're moving into, the 21, the next budget, and are you going to repeat the same thing, or, are you out of the clear? So it's just a general budgeting thing.
Sure. So thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, I believe that anytime we do these budget amendments, they're going to help us with our future budgeting processes to go back and look at underestimates or overestimates that we may have made. So this information is definitely going to be valuable moving forward. That being said, speaking specifically about the water repair line item, the underestimation, that I truly feel both of those line items were, we could not have budgeted for those. Those were things that occurred. We needed more man hours because of incidents that happened. And then of course with the repair maintenance. Repair maintenance is also one of those line items that we do our best guess when we go through the budgeting process, but things are always going to come up, especially when we're talking about, water repairs, sewer repairs, the water plant. It is a little bit more tricky to have the estimations done in March for what's going to happen maybe a year later. For the general fund, the movement on the police line, them being over budget, truly had a lot to do with the overtime. I don't think that when that original budget was made, that we were really overestimating or shooting for the moon, that we were going to have so much salary that was going to be needed. We had events that were canceled that we would have had police overtime. We had not as much need for the police, like, being held over because they were working a case. Those type of issues were not as necessary as we've had in years past. So their overtime was very, very much under. That being said, with Department of Public Works, we were over in a few areas. Some of it had to do with, again, things that came up with work that was being done at what we call the garage, but at the main Department of Public Works building where hours were put there. Also during the COVID-19, the height of the crisis, we're talking, March, April, even May, hours that might have been done in the park or at the cemetery, or definitely major and local streets. We were not doing as much street work during that time. We were doing more things internally within the city, and those would be put towards that DPW, that 440 budget. So that's where those changes come from. I hope that helped clarifies a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you. You're very well informed. It's very appreciative to have that kind of detail in your explanation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree. Does anyone have anything else for Patricia? Councilmember Kibble, go ahead.
I don't think that you need to be apologetic about the idea of putting this information in here. This is, that's what helps us to understand exactly what's going on. So, and I'm really grateful too. This really is a sort of numbers synopsis of the things that had gone awry this year. You know, the forecast for using that money the way we typically would have was blown up by the fact that we have an event going on through the nation that's just turned everything upside down. So the question I would like to ask, though, in the event that things hadn't happened this way, those same pop-up events with the sewer repair thing would have taken place.
Mhm.
So would we have had to have gone into general fund to be able to cover that if that had been the case, and the rest of the budget went pretty straightforward, normal?
Let me clarify, for the water repair and sewer repair, that wouldn't be general fund, that would
Oh,
be
no, that's-
water and sewer fund. Yeah, I just want to clarify for anyone else.
No, actually, as soon as you started saying something, I thought, oh, wait, yeah, that's, no,
And
okay.
yes, and if we were to go over on expenses, typically we would have to take from the fund balance to correct that. But because we were able to move funds within the departments, we did not have to take from fund balance. Does that answer, I believe, what you were asking?
It is, yeah,
Okay.
that is part of it, yes. But I just wanted to explain that the detail is actually very, very helpful for me and clearly some others on there. So
Oh, thank you.
I'm really grateful for that, because sometimes we've had history where there was, I won't call it a slush fund, but there was some pad in some of our budgets that made it easy to accomplish some coverage of things that might not have been able to be covered otherwise. So I'm seeing that this is a much more disciplined approach to trying to budget. So I'm really grateful for seeing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, with that, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed final budget amendments for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Kibble, seconded by Councilmember Kennedy. Do we have any further discussion or questions for Patricia? City Clerk Deaton, would you please lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Kurzweil,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Dilg,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Kibble,
Yes.
Richards,
Yes.
Pelchat.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, City Clerk Deaton. With that, we'll move on to the budget this evening.
I believe that was the budget, Mr. Mayor, wasn't it? Oh, no, my apologies. No,
True, yeah, to a certain extent, you're correct.
no, my apologies.
But, on the agenda, the general budget this evening. Okay, great. We'll move on to the city manager's report, and we'll send it over to Paul.
I want to update everyone that our next council agenda, we're going to have the new water and sewer rate analysis model being discussed by Brian from Plant Moran. I did submit all of you a copy of that about a month ago. He will be going over that model as well as the other two models, so we can move forward with potential changes in our water and sewer rates. We're also going to be bringing forward some potential purchases for police department as well as fire department. And on the upcoming agenda, I want to discuss with council our plan for moving forward for a road improvement plan. I'm having HRC update some numbers regarding what the costs for road improvements are within the city based upon our PACER study to get a better or accurate forecast on what the costs for those improvements are going to be. So that will be coming forward before council as well. I updated you before also on the Eagle Scout project. We have an individual that is building a new sign that has a map on it, as well as for pamphlets for the cemetery. He's working on that, and we do have on our city website your opportunity for people to make donations for cans and bottles, because he's raising funds for that and doing that in hopes of getting his Eagle Scout badge. I also mentioned regarding our zoning ordinance rewrite was discussed at Planning Commission, and we will be getting you a copy of that draft and give you ample time to review that before we move forward with having a joint City Council and Planning Commission meeting for the zoning ordinance. The water treatment plant, we're going to be getting started within the next couple weeks. That includes the construction of a 600,000 gallon water tank and the repair of existing water tank, as well as some additional piping and underground work. They're going to be working and storing material over on the grassy area across from the water and sewer plant and begin removing some brush and some trees in the area where the new water tank is going to be placed. Our Economic Development Director, DDA Director, had discussed some issues relating to the social districts. We've had a lot of calls regarding social districts within the city. One of the key factors of establishing a social district and having a commons area is to have two adjoining businesses that come in contact with the social district in order for us to establish one. Our businesses that have liquor licenses are spread apart by streets or a block. So the only way you potentially could have a social district is to actually close down a street. Some communities have done some of those things. For us right now, we've been working with businesses who are expanding some of their outside seating, and we will continue to work on that. And that's all I have for right now. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Does anyone have anything for Paul this evening? All right, great. Thank you for the update. And with that, we will move on to public comment. Our second public comment this evening. Lisa, does it look like we have anyone out there looking for public comment?
We do not have anyone raising their hand at the moment.
Give it another second here just to make sure. Okay, and so with that, we'll move on to council comments this evening, and we'll start with Councilmember Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I have tonight is I've been reached out to by a few different of our constituents concerned about the schools and the fact that they are continuing to gather and condition for sports for the fall season. I know that there was a letter that went out recently with a student having tested positive for COVID, and then they put a pause on those training sessions, and as soon as they found out that none of the other students had it, they went back into those training sessions. I'm not sure that's really a council thing. It might need to go through our school board meetings, but I just want to bring it up that people are concerned, you know, with our city making so many measures and so many changes to socially distance, make sure that everyone is properly following orders. I think we need to follow up on this and make sure that we are putting our smaller residents of the city in making sure that we are making sure they are not in danger, okay? That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Walton. Councilmember Dill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things. I saw this week that Quicksilver and KV Sports have combined efforts, and I think that's really exciting because I know that was there were some possibilities that KV Sports might not continue. So I think that is really awesome. I just want to say congratulations. I think it's a perfect match. I think that's going to be great. I also went and met, I don't know if you can see this, it's the card for the new tattoo parlor. I went in there and I met Billy Smokes and his wife, and it looks like a great place in there, and I welcomed them. I just want to welcome them again publicly to South Lyon. They're going to be a great business. I mentioned earlier that I stopped in and saw Jeff Zaffor, and they expanded into the new Lemon Tree space, and their offices look fantastic. So it's really great to see all the business happening down there and all the changes. Also noticed that the historic village looks just beautiful, all the flowers, and it looks like they're looking for some volunteers to help garden. So that's, if anybody has a green thumb, which I do not, probably Councilmember Kurzweil could help them out. And I just wanted to voice some support for Pumpkin Fest committee. I know it was a really, really tough decision to cancel Pumpkin Fest, and it's unbelievable that has to happen in South Lyon. Just, you know, such a staple. But I just wanted to give them some support because I know there was some, you know, mostly people were supportive, but I know there was a lot of disappointment also. So I just wanted to say that I think they made a good decision, a tough decision. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dill. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I just wanted to let you know that Mr. Kivel's motion that he made earlier in the meeting is supported by Rule 35 in Robert's Rules of Order. It's called it's a motion to amend something previously adopted. So that would have been the formal motion to make when you wanted to amend those minutes. This motion can be made to amend minutes that have been established after their approval, even after many years. It does require a 2/3 vote or a majority vote with notice, or the vote of a majority of the entire membership, or unanimous consent. And I believe you had unanimous consent. So I just wanted to pass that Robert's Rules of Order issue along. Additionally, I want to say also with Pumpkin Fest, I think Pumpkin Fest made the right decision. I think these are just unpredictable times. Obviously, this virus is not going away. And I think what people are upset about, as I can gather, is Kathy just did a fabulous job. The team did a great job. And I think it's just one of those times when everybody could get together, be together, just have a weekend where you look forward to the events, you took your kids, and it's just one more thing we have to deal with this pandemic. But bless their hearts and their commitment, and we will be with them hopefully next year in 21. Last on COVID, just wanted to say that, as I said, it doesn't look like this thing is going away anytime soon, but we do have to get on with our lives, and we have to get out there and behave reasonably, be cautious. And when businesses do ask us to wear a mask, please wear the mask, and please social distance when you're out there. I don't know what we will be doing when we come back at City Council. If we're gonna be wearing masks, that's fine with me. If they're gonna put plastic in front of us to keep the public out, or plastics on the sides from each other, I don't know how that forum is gonna look. But we just need to stay vigilant, stay healthy, continue to wash our hands. This will end. There will be an end, but we just got to stay with it. So good night, everybody. Have a good week.
Thank you, Councilmember Kurtzwell. Councilmember Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say a few things here quickly. I've had the opportunity to ride down Dixboro, and I'm absolutely amazed, and it's absolutely beautiful. The improvement that we've got on the section between 9 and 8 Mile. People ask me, when are we going to start on the next one? I said, I think it's going to be targeted for 2023. But one section at a time is certainly enough. Secondly, I'd like to make a comment about 825 Lake Street, 825 Lake Street. I've been by there, and things are moving along. I think I had a question in the last meeting about the sewer connection, and the last 2 weeks the heat has shut me down quite a bit. I haven't been able to make my rounds like I usually did. But I hope that project is all going well, and I'm familiar with the history of some of Mr. Langdon's other property developments, and they have a history of spinning out of control sometimes, and I hope that doesn't happen to us. Number 3, I'd like to say, I hope the Secretary of State's office opens up pretty soon and we can all do regular business when we have to. It's certainly a handicap at this time, and you can't hardly find anything out. And lastly, I just want to let you all know that my latest project that I'm working on is something I brought up in the past. I've made contacts with the tube mill, and I've kept Paul informed about it. And I've been invited in by several of the officers, Mr. Bell and Mr. Slater, and I hope to have several discussions with them in the next 2 weeks, starting off during the shutdown period. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Richards. We'll go to Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, I just want to remind everyone that if you haven't completed your 2020 census questionnaire, to please do so today. So far, only 81.6% of the city residents have completed their questionnaire, and we still have a long way to go to ensure everyone is counted. So please go to my2020census.gov and do your part to help our community by being counted. Secondly, as the city manager mentioned, we have a scout, Stuart Brown of Troop 228, who's working on that Eagle Scout project, building the display case for the cemetery. If you have bottles and cans that you can contribute to him, if you send him an email at Stuart, S-T-U-A-R-T, number 7 Brown, that's Stuart 7 Brown at gmail.com. You can make arrangements. He'll come by and pick those up, take them off your hands, and use the proceeds for that project. And finally, along with the Pumpkin Fest, I just want to extend my support to Deb and Doug Cook with the tough decision they had to make to cancel the Lake Street cruise-ins for this year, as well as the Motor Fest event. I mean, just like Pumpkin Fest, not an easy decision. It's going to be an event that will surely be missed, but given the current situation and environment, obviously the right decision to make. That's all I have this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. Councilmember Kibble?
Yeah, I second what you were saying there, Steve. Both of those events, Pumpkin Fest and the car shows, an awful lot of people invested an awful lot of time in planning and things, and it's unfortunate, but clearly those were the proper decisions to be made. I just wanted to say that been going down to the farmer's market. There's good attendance down there. It's kind of a revolving group of people being down there. You know, some of the stuff that had started early, I think that they probably spent out a lot of what they had built or had to offer, and some new things are filling in. So that's kind of nice and better with the seasonal stuff. So it's still nice to have the farmer's market. People have been behaving, most people wearing masks and things. So I implore people to continue to support that whole industry. And anybody that's been paying any attention to the RCA building, they've pulled the lid off of the place. So I'm assuming now they're getting ready to start putting stuff back together. So that's a very exciting project over there. I'm hoping like crazy that that they don't fall into any problems with weather or whatever. So no unexpected problems. I know getting that sanitary line in there was pretty disruptive to our parking lot. So I'm hoping that it all ends up paying off. So that's all I had. Thank you very much. Enjoy your week.
Thank you, Councilmember Kittle. I just want to kind of echo what most of us have been saying for the last several weeks is, you know, let's just try and be kind to each other. You know, you never know how folks are handling this. People are losing jobs. People are frustrated. So any extra kindness that you can share, whether it's in your community or, you know, your neighborhood directly or people you're interacting with in town, I want to encourage that. I can't thank and appreciate the city staff from top to bottom on continuing to operate in a you know, something we haven't seen in over 100 years, and we're continuing to learn and figuring out ways to make sure that everything's getting provided for our residents, and I'm very thankful for that. And that, you know, let's keep it up, and you know, let's try and enjoy the rest of the summer here, even though we're losing some big time events with the man hours that go into that, and all the hours from everyone across the board. I think it was probably for the best that we're not making that decision in the weeks leading up to that. And, you know, there probably would have been a lot more frustration and anger. So I support all of that as well. So we do have to vote on going to closed session this evening. So Lisa, at this point, I will say that council will be entering a closed session pursuant to Section 8 of the Opens Meeting Act, MCL 15.268, to discuss negotiations for a collective bargaining agreement between the City of South Lyon and AFSCME Council Local 2720, POLC, and the POAM. Lisa, we'll need a roll call vote on that this evening.
Okay, Walton,
Yes.
Dilg,
Yes.
Kurzweil,
Yes.
Richards,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Kibble,
Yes.
Felchat.
Yes. With that passing, I would also like it if Patricia, Chief, and City Manager Zelnick were in attendance with the City Council. Does anyone have any issue with that?
Yeah.
Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
I just want to say that under the Open Meetings Act, you are permitted to have individuals attend a closed meeting that you find would be beneficial or useful to an understanding of the material to be discussed. So it's not an unusual request.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Kurtzwell, for that. At this time, City Clerk Deaton, if you could, and I know this is tricky, try and get it so we no longer have anyone that has not been invited to this closed session with us.
Yes, I'm going to remove any attendees. So I'll be right back with you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night, Lisa.
Attorney Amame, have a great night.
Okay, so if you give me a second, I'll lock the meeting. If I can find it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we have the meeting locked. No one else can attend.
Okay, great.
Now,
Are you going
I'm
to stop the
going,
recording?
yes, I'm going to do that right now.
Okay.
I'm going to stop the recording right now.
That's what I was going to ask. Okay.
Okay, we've done that.
Okay. City Council is reconvening to regular City Council meeting at 9:32 p.m. And at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this evening. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Move to adjourn.
Councilmember Warren.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Have a great night, all.
Aye.
Good night.
Night.
Night.